Three things about the markets ahead. Global or Australia?
I'll go global.
You choose. What should be the analyst or the market watchers need to be watching or thinking about? What three things come to your mind?
Fed policy
Fed
is
policy.
one, and I'll answer that because it's a little bit to it. We're at a very dynamic time with Fed policy because the Fed chair his role could be over by Christmas, but certainly I believe his tenure expires in May of next year.
Yeah.
And I've heard from the administration, public knowledge, that he could be gone by Christmas.
Okay.
So what does that look, smell and taste like? So there's the first one. Then we're looking at why, and I use critical thinking, why has gold, which doesn't pay a dividend, had such a massive run-up, which is just unheralded, in the last 2 years? And to give you an example, October the 7th, because I remember that date distinctly, it was $1,807 in 2023. That's when Israel had the attack. 1,807. Well, it was recently at nearly 4,400 in a 2-year window. So where does it go from here?
Yeah.
And I think it goes a lot further, but that's another subject altogether. So I'm conscious I'll say that's all wrapped up in the Fed. I'm curious to see where US dollar goes. I'm curious to see what happens with stock markets at all-time highs. The acceleration that we saw on the Nikkei from 40,000 to 50,000 was like a runaway train. It was just incredible. So I want to see what's happening with the Japanese market, and that gives me a good flavour across Asia. And then I want to see, I think from a crypto perspective, I'm curious to see where Bitcoin and XRP roll. Bitcoin's back at 93, well down from its peak. And I think that what we saw in 25, President Trump has got some, and I'm using his words and certainly his two lieutenants, or if you want, they might be generals, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. They've got some very big agendas with tariffs and external revenue and what that represents to the United States. So I'm fascinated to see how that plays out. So I think 26...
There's the big Supreme Court discussions and still playing out.
And that's, we can't say, well, we've got the end game of that now, because we're not. We need to look back in 6 months' time or this time next year and see what the revenue was earned and how successful it was. Because I've seen what Section 232 is, that even if the Supreme Court rule against President Trump, Section 232 allows President Trump to introduce tariffs.
Yeah, that's what I heard from some other commentators, that there will be other ways to continue the agenda, because this is a big agenda.
A huge agenda. So I want to see how that plays out into 26. And I think 26 could be a very dynamic year. Mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing.